It is time now for a check of what's happening in the world of business. Our business editor, Kate Moody's here. Hi there, Kate.
Hi, Tom.
Now, let's begin with a news story from France. Thousands of people protesting against the rising cost of living, amongst a host of other grievances.
Yeah, another day of protests and strikes across the country. Inflation in France hit 2.8% in both November and December. That is the highest level here in over a decade. And many protesters said that despite the government's efforts to cap things like electricity and gas bills, they simply don't earn enough to keep up. Unions representing rail workers and teachers were among those leading strikes across the country. They say they want higher pension payments and better pay, especially for public sector and minimum wage workers. France's monthly minimum wage is just over 1,600 euros. The anger over inflation and households' purchasing power are set to be a key issue in April's presidential election.
Quand on voit les grosses hausses de l'énergie, les grosses hausses des produits de consommation, des loyers, de tout ce qui aujourd'hui nous met dans une précarité totale, évidemment, on est là pour demander une hausse du salaire minimum qui évidemment entraînera une hausse de tous les salaires.
Revalorisation de salaire, mais pas que des clopinettes, parce qu'il y en a marre des clopinettes, mais vraiment une augmentation de salaire conséquente, pour être reconnu quand même dans notre mission de service public et le service qu'on rend aux usagers et aux citoyens en général.
Well, French food suppliers are in talks with supermarkets over rising costs. Companies in every sector are facing challenges from that rising inflation and what they can afford to pass on to consumers. Catherine Viette reports.
At the La Mer Poulard biscuit factory, the cost of raw materials has soared because of the pandemic. Butter prices have increased by 70%, sugar has gone up 14%, while plastic packaging has increased by 20%, and the biscuit boxes are up more than 24%. For weeks, the company's CEO has been negotiating with the big grocery stores for a 12% increase in the price he's paid, but it hasn't worked.
The meetings have been quite tense since the distributors wanted to hear about and discuss our cost increases in raw materials. However, they only wanted to accept small price increases.
Under a French law designed to protect the incomes of farmers, regular price negotiations are held with food processors and supermarket chains. However, some farmers say they're being pressured into accepting lower prices. The big grocery stores say they're protecting their customers' purchasing power.
We will not be able to pass on all the price increases that are requested of us right away. As a consumer, would you accept that all your daily food products increased in price between 7 and 10%? It's not possible, and that's where we play our part. We discuss to find the best balance. And in the end, an increase will be passed on, there will be one, but as fair as possible for everyone.
He envisions an average price increase of 3 to 4% for customers once negotiations are concluded at the end of February.
The U.S. Federal Reserve is tightening its monetary policy as the economy gets back on its feet. Fresh data showed GDP grew 6.9% in the last 3 months of 2021 compared to the previous 3 months. For the year, it's the fastest pace of growth since the 1980s, driven in part by a rebound in consumer spending. Economic activity is expected to soften in 2022, especially with the ongoing surge of COVID infections. The number of Americans seeking jobless benefits has also stabilized. 260,000 new applications were filed last week. That's around pre-pandemic levels. The Fed has suggested that America's labor market is near maximum employment. All of that has played into its decision to reduce its pandemic support and tackle the highest level of inflation in nearly 70 years. Analysts think there could be up to 5 interest rate hikes this year, starting in March.
What they're trying to do here is just try to appease the markets and say, look, we acknowledge there's an inflation problem. They said inflation is way above the 2% target. No kidding. They're going to deal with it. But they're also trying to send a message that they have to be cautious.
Well, Powell's statement yesterday was broadly in line with what investors had expected. We saw some jitters on Wall Street yesterday. It was then back to its week of volatility. We can see U.S. stocks giving up their earlier gains to trade in the red. The Nasdaq down over 1 percentage point with less than an hour of the trading session to go. The major European indices closed higher earlier on, gains of about 1 percentage point for London's FTSE 100, a bit less for Paris and Frankfurt. Moving on to some of the day's other business headlines now. Car production in the UK fell to its lowest level since 1956 last year. 860,000 new cars rolled out of UK factories. The industry said it had been hampered by a global shortage of semiconductors, as well as other pandemic-related disruptions. Most car manufacturers did feel the pinch of that chip shortage, but Tesla still managed to record $5.5 billion profit last year, a record, as sales soared 71% in 2021. The electric car maker says it expects that trend to continue, forecasting 50% growth for the year ahead. Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi Motors are investing a further 23 billion euros in electric vehicle technology over the next 5 years. The Global Alliance is trying to recover from a rocky period marked by the downfall of boss Carlos Ghosn. The Franco-Japanese company is trying to pool its resources, especially when it comes to electric batteries, and cash in on that rapidly growing sector. Like many countries around the world, Greece is trying to transition to more sustainable energy sources. The Greek islands are now home to hundreds of wind turbines, mostly funded by private investors. But the island of Tinos is worried about hurting its heritage and its tourism industry. Charlie James has more.
They are Europe's windiest isles, and therefore a prime target for investors in wind energy. The Greek Cyclades in the Mediterranean are already the site of hundreds of wind turbines. It's a project supported by the government and funded by private backers. Yannis Stefas invested in 3 on the island of Tinos at a cost of 3.5 million euros.
Εδώ που ο άνεμος προσφέρεται για να πάρεις ενέργεια. Είμαστε στα καλύτερα μέρη για παραγωγή ενέργειας. Νομίζω ότι είναι σε όλη την Ευρώπη τα καλύτερα σημεία για παραγωγή ενέργειας εδώ.
But Tinos' residents do not agree. They are mostly against the project. Tourism is an important part of the island's economy, and there is concern wind farms will harm the island's beauty.
Είναι η μορφή του τόπου αυτού, η μορφολογία του, η παρέμβαση σιδερένιων θηρίων.
Τι να σας πω, αν δεν κάνουν ζημιά, αν μπουν σε μέρος που πρέπει, εντάξει. Γιατί καμιά φορά μπαίνουν σε μέρη που είναι άσχημες.
In total, around 30 wind turbines are in the works for the island. Climate activists argue the islands need to produce what they consume.
Si les populations réagissent aussi au projet d'autosuffisance énergétique, alors là, on est vraiment dans un cas de figure NIMBY, c'est-à-dire j'externalise le coût sur les autres, en gros, pour avoir mon joli paysage.
Greeks overall support wind energy, but Tinos reflects a fight that has played out across Europe. Governments stressing the need to switch to green energy, residents saying, not in my backyard.
Still pretty stunning landscapes there, despite, or perhaps because of those wind turbines. But of course, those people are really, really concerned that it's just not going to have the same appeal.
Well, it's all about how you look at things, of course, because I think Mykonos, when you arrive, has got some wind turbines that are part of the attraction, although they're of a different era.
Probably, I think. But look, wind turbines are absolutely becoming part of daily life, no matter where you are. And many tourist hotspots, because of where they're situated, because of the temperatures, the weather, the wind in particular, might find themselves having to deal with this.
Yeah, well, given the choice between a view and electricity, well, I think I'd quite like to have some electricity if that's all right by you. Thank you very much indeed, our business editor, Kate Moody. Thanks for bringing us up to speed on all of that. I'll be back in a couple of minutes with the top stories. Don't go away.
Join us in